I can't do this. You are a terrible person.
I do was the only thing standing between me and a new life. But it was a lie waiting to bury me alive in front of 300 witnesses. My name was Yvonne. I was 28 years old, standing in the bridal room of St. Augustine's Church in Lagos, wrapped in a white gown that cost me 4 months of savings and 3 years of dreaming. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from joy. Real joy, the kind that makes your chest feel too small for your heart. Esrik was the man I had loved since I was 23, broke and broken. He met me when I had nothing, no good job, no family support, nothing but a small room in Ajegunle and a dream of owning my own fashion business one day. He stayed. Through the nights I cried because rent was due, through the days I sold clothes by the roadside, through my mother's sickness when I needed someone to hold my hand in that hospital corridor. Esrik stayed. So when he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I said yes before he even finished the sentence. The church was full. My aunties were already ululating outside. The Asoebi women were taking pictures in their matching coral fabrics. My father, proud in his agbada, kept peeping into the bridal room to check on me every 5 minutes like I would disappear. I remember the smell of fresh flowers mixed with hot Lagos air pushing through the open windows. I remember the choir rehearsing one last time, their voices floating like something holy. I remember thinking, finally, my story is about to have a happy ending. Then, my younger sister, Tracy, walked in. She was supposed to be my chief bridesmaid. She had helped me choose the wedding colors. She had cried with me, or so I thought, through every hard season of my relationship with Esrik. But the moment she stepped into that room, something was wrong. Her makeup was smudged. Her hands were trembling worse than mine. She wouldn't look me in the eye. Yvonne, she said, her voice cracking, I need to tell you something before you walk down that aisle. I laughed, actually laughed, because I thought she was about to give me one of her usual last-minute jokes to calm my nerves. She didn't laugh back. I'm pregnant, she said, and it's Esrik's. The room went silent. Even the choir's voice outside seemed to fade into nothing. I heard my own heartbeat in my ears, loud like a drum announcing the death of everything I believed in. What did you just say? I whispered, my throat tightening like someone's hand was wrapped around it. Tracy's tears fell freely now. It's been almost a year, Yvonne. I tried to stop. I swear I tried. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My bouquet slipped from my fingers and landed softly on the floor, the white roses scattering like my entire future. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, staring at my own sister, feeling something inside me crack quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a slow, silent breaking, like glass cracking under pressure no one can see until it shatters completely. Outside, the wedding march was about to begin. There's a kind of pain that doesn't make you scream. It makes you go quiet, very quiet, like your soul is bowing its head in shock. That was the pain I felt standing in that bridal room, my own blood sister confessing the ultimate betrayal seconds before I was supposed to become a wife. For almost a full minute, I said nothing. Tracy kept talking, kept explaining, kept begging, words like, it just happened, I didn't mean to fall for him, please don't hate me. But they all sounded like noise underwater. I couldn't process a single sentence. All I could hear was my own heartbeat and the distant sound of the church organ starting to play the bridal march outside. My mother knocked and peeked in. Yvonne, baby, it's time. She saw my face. She saw Tracy's tears. She saw the bouquet on the floor. What is going on here? My mother asked, her voice sharp with sudden fear. Tracy broke down completely, falling to her knees, confessing everything again, louder this time, the words tumbling out like she needed to release the guilt that had been eating her alive for months. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Her legs seemed to give way, and she grabbed the door frame to steady herself. Almost a year, Tracy sobbed. I'm 3 months pregnant. I watched my mother's face shift from confusion to horror to anger, all in the space of a few seconds. But I felt nothing move on my face, like I was watching this entire scene happen to someone else, like I was floating somewhere above my own body, looking down at a bride who had just been destroyed. Yvonne, my mother said, reaching for me, say something, please say something. I looked at my reflection in the bridal mirror. The veil, the earrings Istrid bought me for my birthday last year, the dress I had imagined myself wearing since I was a teenager, dreaming of love that wouldn't betray me like my father's first marriage had betrayed my mother. I thought about confronting Istrid. I thought about walking out there and slapping Tracy in front of everyone, screaming until my voice gave out, exposing them both before God and witnesses. But something in me, something quiet, something ancient, something that felt like the wisdom of every woman before me who had survived betrayal, told me that screaming would not heal this wound. Screaming would only give them a show, a scandal to whisper about for years, a story where I was the broken, hysterical bride. I did not want to be that story. I reached up slowly and removed my veil. My mother gasped, "What are you doing?" I didn't answer her. I picked up my bouquet from the floor, looked at it for a long moment, then placed it gently on the chair beside me, as if I was setting down a weight I no longer needed to carry. "Yvonne, please," Tracy cried, reaching for my hand. "Don't do this. Don't embarrass the family." I looked at her, really looked at her, my sister, my blood, the girl I used to share a bed with when we were children, the girl I had protected from bullies in primary school, the girl I had given my last money to when she was job hunting 2 years ago. "You should have thought about the family," I said softly, "before you got into another woman's wedding." Then I turned, opened the bridal room door, and walked out, past the bridesmaids, past the ushers, past my father who was rushing towards me with confusion written all over his face, and straight down the church corridor towards the very aisle I was supposed to be escorted down in by him, in joy. I walked past the open doors of the sanctuary. 300 guests turned to look. The choir's voices faltered. The organist's fingers slipped on the keys. I did not stop. I did not explain. I simply walked in my white wedding gown out through the front doors of the church into the blinding Lagos sunlight. Behind me, I heard the gasps begin. If you have never walked away from the biggest moment of your life in complete silence, you will never understand how loud silence can be. I walked out of St. Augustine's Church that afternoon with my wedding gown trailing behind me like a white flag of surrender. Except I wasn't surrendering. I was leaving. There's a difference. Behind me, I could hear the chaos exploding. My father's voice, confused and panicked, asking what happened. My mother's voice, breaking apart as she tried to explain to a crowd of 300 guests that the wedding was cancelled. Someone screamed. Someone else began recording with their phone. Because in this generation, even heartbreak becomes content. I didn't turn around. I found my car, the small Toyota I had bought myself 2 years ago, before Isaac, before any of this, parked at the edge of the church compound. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get the key into the door. I sat inside, gripping the steering wheel, and for the first time since Tracy walked into the bridal room, I allowed myself to feel something other than numbness. I screamed, not a scream anyone outside could hear. The windows were rolled up, the AC was off, and the heat inside the car was suffocating. Almost like it matched the heat building up inside my chest. I screamed until my throat hurt, until tears blurred everything in front of me, until my whole body shook with a grief I didn't even have words for yet. How do you mourn a relationship that's still standing right outside the car, wearing a tuxedo, waiting for you? Because that's the cruel part. Isaac was still out there. He didn't even know yet. He was standing at the altar, probably smiling, probably nervous, probably thinking about the life we were about to start together, completely unaware that the woman carrying his child was my own sister, and that his bride had just found out and fled. I sat in that car for almost 20 minutes, crying, breathing, trying to understand how 3 years of love could be erased by one confession. Then my phone began to ring. Isaac. I stared at the screen, his name glowing, his photo, the one from our engagement shoot, both of us laughing on the beach in Lekki, smiling up at me like a cruel joke. I didn't pick up. He called again and again. Each time I watched the screen light up and fade, until I finally turned the phone completely off. I needed silence. Real silence. Not the kind people use to hide things, but the kind I needed to hear my own thoughts clearly for the first time in months. Because looking back now, there had been signs. Small things I had ignored. Isaac being unusually busy on weekends, Tracy suddenly distancing herself from me in the last few months, finding excuses not to come to wedding planning meetings, the two of them exchanging glances I had mistaken for normal sibling-in-law friendliness. I had been so focused on building my dream wedding that I had missed the cracks forming right under my own roof. I started the car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay in that church parking lot one more second, listening to the muffled chaos of my own destroyed wedding leaking out through the church walls. As I drove through the busy Lagos streets, still in my wedding gown, people stared at traffic lights. Some pointed, some laughed, thinking it was a prank or a movie shoot. They had no idea they were looking at a woman whose entire world had just collapsed in less than 30 minutes. I drove straight to the one place I knew would never judge me, my grandmother's house in Surulere. If you have never experienced betrayal from the people closest to you, you won't understand this. Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from the stranger who hurts you. It comes from the people who are supposed to protect you, choosing instead to destroy you quietly while smiling in your face. If this story is already touching your heart, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will leave you speechless. This is where the real karma begins. Pain has a way of stripping you down to the truest version of yourself. And sitting on my grandmother's old wooden bench that evening, I had never felt more exposed, more human, more broken. My grandmother, Mama Ruth, was 81 years old, sharp-eyed, and known throughout the family for never sugarcoating anything. When I walked into her compound, still wearing my wedding gown, mascara streaked down my face, she didn't scream, she didn't ask 100 questions, she simply opened her arms. I fell into them like a child. "Sit down, my daughter," she said, guiding me to the bench under her mango tree, the same tree I used to climb as a little girl whenever my parents fought. "Tell me everything from the beginning." So I did. I told her about Tracy walking into the bridal room, about the confession, about the silence I chose instead of a scene, about driving away without looking back. Mama Ruth listened without interrupting, her wrinkled hands folded in her lap, her eyes never leaving my face. When she finished, she let out a long, slow breath. "You did the right thing, my daughter," she said, finally. Many women would have screamed. Many women would have fought their own sister in front of everybody, giving the family something to gossip about for 10 years. But you walked away with your dignity. That is rare, Yvonne. That is rare. "I don't feel like dignity, Mama," I whispered. "It feels like defeat." She took my hand in hers, her skin soft and worn from decades of hard work and harder lessons. "Listen to me carefully. A woman who walks away in silence is not defeated. She is simply too wise to give her enemies a show. Let them talk. Let them gossip. While they are busy talking, you will be busy healing. That night, my phone, which I had finally turned back on, exploded with messages. Dozens of missed calls from Isaac, voice notes from my mother, crying, begging me to come home so we can discuss things. Messages from relatives, some sympathetic, some shockingly defending Tracy, saying things like, "She is young, she made a mistake," and "You should forgive your sister, blood is thicker than water." But the message that broke me the most came from my father. "Yvonne, please come home. We need to handle this quietly before it destroys the family name." Quietly, as if my entire life collapsing in front of 300 people was something to be managed like a business problem instead of a wound that needed to actually heal. I didn't reply to any of them. 2 days later, while I was still staying at my grandmother's house, trying to piece together what my next steps would be, my cousin Lara called me, her voice trembling with urgency. "Yvonne, you need to see this. It's everywhere." Apparently, one of the wedding guests had recorded the chaos after I left. Tracy crying, my mother trying to calm the crowd, my father attempting to explain to confused guests why the bride had vanished. Someone had posted it online with the caption, "Bride disappears from her own wedding. Find out why." Within hours, people had done their own digging. Someone who knew Tracy from her workplace had apparently suspected the affair for months and spoke up in the comments. Another guest who had seen Isaac and Tracy together at a hotel weeks earlier added her account. The story spread like wildfire through Lagos social media circles. The betrayal, the pregnancy, the silent bride who simply walked away. I watched it all unfold from my grandmother's living room, feeling a strange mixture of vindication and heartbreak. I hadn't wanted this kind of exposure. I hadn't asked for revenge. But the truth, once it escapes, doesn't ask permission to spread. Sometimes the truth doesn't need your help to destroy what was built on lies. It simply needs time, and time always tells. A week after my wedding day collapsed in front of 300 witnesses, Isaac showed up at my grandmother's gate. I saw him through the window before he even knocked, standing there in a simple white shirt, looking nothing like the confident groom who had been waiting for me at that altar. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept properly in days. Mama Ruth offered to send him away, but I stopped her. "No," I said. "I need to hear this myself. I need to close this chapter properly." I walked outside and stood at the gate, not inviting him in, not stepping out either, just standing there, the same distance between us as the distance between the truth and the lie he had been living. "Yvonne," he started, his voice cracking immediately. "Please, just let me explain." "Explain what, Isaac?" I asked calmly. My own calmness surprised me. "Explain how you slept with my sister for almost a year? Explain how you let me plan a wedding, spend my savings, invite 300 people while you were living a double life? What exactly do you want to explain?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing he could say that would make any of it make sense. "It started by mistake, Mother One. One night we were both drunk and it just..." "Stop," I said, raising my hand. "I don't need details. I needed honesty 3 years ago. I needed honesty the night it just happened. I needed honesty every single day after that, instead of you letting me walk down a path toward a wedding that was built on a lie." Tears filled his eyes. "I do love you, Yvonne. What happened with Tracy was a mistake, but my love for you was never fake." I almost laughed at the absurdity of his words. Love doesn't impregnate your fiancé's sister and stay silent about it for almost a year, Isaac. Love doesn't let her plan a wedding gown fitting while you're secretly meeting someone else. What you're describing isn't love, it's convenience. You wanted the comfortable life I gave you and the excitement Tracy gave you, and you wanted both without consequence. He had no response to that. "How is your father handling everything?" I asked, genuinely curious since the scandal had reportedly shaken the entire church community. Isaac's jaw tightened. He's furious. The church board is questioning his position as an elder because of how this looks. My mother hasn't spoken to me in days. Everyone is asking how the son of a respected church elder could do something like this right before his wedding. Despite myself, I felt no satisfaction in hearing his family's disgrace. I had never wanted revenge. I had only wanted truth and peace. "And Tracy?" I asked. His face fell further. "She's struggling. The pregnancy is stressful, and with everything online, she's barely leaving the house. Your parents are devastated. Everyone keeps asking when you are coming back home." "I'm not avoiding home, Isaac," I said quietly. "I'm avoiding the lie that almost became my life." He reached for my hand through the gate, but I stepped back before he could touch me. "Please, Yvonne, give me a chance to fix this. We can still—" "There is no we," I said firmly, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside my chest. "You and Tracy created a we a long time ago. I am simply the woman who finally found out." I turned to walk back into my grandmother's compound, but his next word stopped me. "What about the baby?" "Tracy says she wants nothing to do with me now. My family is asking me to take responsibility, but I don't even know what that looks like anymore." I turned back slowly. "That," I said, "is no longer my problem to solve. You built this mess with my sister. The two of you will figure out how to live in it." I walked away from that gate with my head high, leaving him standing there, alone, holding the weight of choices he could never undo. There is a kind of peace that only comes after you've lost everything you thought you needed. And it was in the months following my cancelled wedding that I finally understood what real peace felt like. It had been 6 months since I walked out of St. Augustine's Church in my wedding gown. 6 months since my world fell apart in front of 300 witnesses. 6 months since I learned that betrayal can wear the face of the people who claim to love you the most. In that time, so much had changed. Isaac's father stepped down from his church leadership position after the congregation's trust in his family eroded completely. The scandal had become so widely known in our community that Isaac eventually relocated to another state, unable to escape the whispers that followed him everywhere he went. I heard, through family gossip I no longer actively sought, that he was struggling to maintain steady work, his reputation having traveled faster than he could outrun it. Tracy gave birth to a baby boy. I won't pretend the news didn't sting when I first heard it. There's a particular kind of pain in knowing your sister's child shares blood with the man you almost married. But over time, even that pain softened into something more like distant sadness than active hurt. My parents, especially my mother, struggled to rebuild a relationship with Tracy. The betrayal had cracked something in their bond that may never fully heal. Tracy reached out to me twice, asking for forgiveness. I haven't responded yet. Some wounds need more than 6 months to even consider that conversation. I'm not closing the door forever. I'm simply not ready to open it yet, and I've stopped feeling guilty about that. As for me, I did something I didn't expect. I used the money I had saved for the wedding, the venue deposit I managed to recover, the gown I returned for partial refund, the catering deposit my father insisted I keep, and I opened the fashion boutique I had been dreaming about since I was 23 years old, broke and uncertain, falling in love with a man I thought would never betray me. I named the boutique Reborn. It felt fitting, because that's exactly what I was, not a broken woman defined by the wedding that never happened, but a woman who walked out of a church in silence and somehow found her way back to herself. The boutique opened in a small but vibrant shop in Yaba, surrounded by other young entrepreneurs rebuilding their own dreams. My grandmother, Mama Ruth, was there on opening day, sitting proudly in a chair near the entrance, greeting every customer like she had personally handpicked them. "You see," she told me that day, squeezing my hand, "I told you walking away in silence was not defeat. Look at you now. Look at what silence gave birth to." She was right.
My silence that day in the church wasn't weakness. It was the first step to reclaiming a life that almost got stolen from me by people who claimed to love me the most. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that moment in the bridal room. Tracy's tear-streaked face, the bouquet slipping from my fingers, the heavy silence that followed me down that aisle and out into the Lagos sunlight. I think about how easy it would have been to scream, to fight, to give everyone the dramatic scene they were secretly hoping for. But I chose differently, and in choosing silence over chaos, I found a strength I never knew I had. Today, Reborn has grown into a name many young women in Lagos recognize, not just for the quality of our fashion designs, but for the story behind it. Customers often ask me about the boutique's name, and sometimes when I'm in the mood to share, I tell them the truth, that this business was born from one of the most painful days of my life, the day I learned that walking away can be the loudest, most powerful statement a woman can ever make. Justice, I've learned, doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from simply choosing yourself, even when everyone expects you to fight for people who never deserved you in the first place. I am Yvonne. I survived my own wedding day, and I rebuilt a life more beautiful than the one I almost lost. If this story touched your heart today, don't forget to subscribe to Reina Tales for more powerful real-life African drama stories. Drop a comment below telling me, would you have walked away in silence like Yvonne, or would you have confronted them right there in the church? See you in the next story.